is my way. I got to plug my phone. Yep, so as I say, we are fucking these people up as a society, and I'm one of those people. I've largely given vanity up for the moment, but for some reason that collar being tucked in is just not, the camera's not loving it. I managed to start to sort out some of the dermatitis that I got when I was in prison. We can do it later. As a society, because I am part of society, we are not hive mind. I am part of that. I am contributing in my small way to society, as every voter does. Every life contributes to society, as every vote contributes to an election. There may be it's a non-zero contribution, but it certainly doesn't necessarily mean it's got much impact on the characterisation or the outcome, but I am part of society, so but I'm a part of society that society will not tolerate. And this is where I am sure that mine's, well, of course, mine's much better than mine, with great more knowledge, will be grappling with this idea. I imagine, but I could be imagining in great ignorance. But I understand how autism would be adaptive on an individual level rather than or even on a population level, but I don't understand how it would occur on a generational level, because it's lifetimes that evolution happens in generations, not in. And by generations, I don't mean the fucking bullshit generation as a new generation every fucking 10 years now. I'm talking about the generation which means generations of, procreative generations, which is how, that's where sexual selection and survival of the fittest come through. Evolution doesn't happen without births. And the evolution happens by the genetics of the people who are creating those births. And those are live births, and those are births that survive to procreate themselves. Because lines die out, there are lines that just die out because no one's breeding. And a lot of men don't get to contribute to they don't. they don't have anything, they don't impact on, they have no relationship with evolution at all, because they, many, many, many more women procreate than men do. And I'm not going to explain this. This has been explained so many times, and it's a bit like people having to explain endlessly to the creationists or the intelligent design people how yes, there is no missing link. There is no missing link. The links don't work the way you think they do. And we've got that link anyway. Like it's not like we haven't seen how, and we did not evolve from apes. We did not evolve from apes. Apes and humans took different evolutionary paths from a common ancestor. Fascinating. If you want to read, like Richard Dawkins gets up my fucking wig, but you should, and he's a little bit outdated. There's been more, he's a little bit wrong about wolves and dogs. Dogs did not evolve from wolves, although they have a common ancestor, and it's not Richard Dawkins' fault, it's just that science is by nature, like people go, oh, science is wrong about that. It's like, well, that's a characteristic of science. People should read Isaac Asimov's Relativity of Wrong. Highly recommend, and it's a very entertaining read, and there are shorter excerpts, but the whole piece is extremely engaging. And remember, he's I don't know, I mean, I'm probably kind of like pushing the generational kind of thing a bit too hard at the moment, but he's, he was a science fiction writer, but he's, I think he's a physicist or something, so he's a scientist, and so the science fiction he writes is obviously extremely well informed. It's fiction, but it's not imagination. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, it's not just crazy, like wild, like shit that doesn't make any sense. So Isaac Asimov, The Relativity of Wrong. It's a must read. Anyone who goes, well, science was wrong before, well, it's not really like that. And Richard Dawkins has a brief history of, The Greatest Show on Earth, I think it's called, Evolution. And he shows how common ancestry works a bit like a hairpin. And so we did not evolve from apes, because always the gotcha is like, the gotcha is not a gotcha. It's like, not a gotcha. It's like, oh, if we descended from apes, then why are there still apes? Well, you can't answer a question that has a false premise. I can't answer that because the statement in your question is wrong, right? Like, people go, what do you mean I'm just asking a question? And it's like, you're asking a wrong question. How can the question be wrong? Because your question contains a statement. And the statement in that question is, when you say, if humans were, if we descended from apes, why are there still apes? So the statement in that question is that humans descended from apes. You can't answer that question, because to answer that question would be to somehow get tangled up in a fucking nonsense. The answer to that question is that is the wrong question, and the answer is, if you're not going to be a robot about it, you just have to keep repeating, as scientists do, every fucking generations and fuck, Darwin had a hard time. And by the way, Darwin was really only, he didn't have that much to do with, evolutionary theories come so much farther. Excuse the pun. He was onto the right track, but it's come so much farther. And there was this thing, some sort of critter, and the critter had diaspora, I guess. It just got into different groups, got into different terrain, and adapted to its environment, and changed physically and temperamentally and behaviourally and all sorts of bloody things. And some of those became apes and some of those became humans. But there's only one species of human, but there is not just one species of ape. So you have all sorts, that we adapt to our surrounds. And the thing about the autism thing is it makes a lot of sense, because there are things that don't make sense, and I don't know if it's because I don't know enough or if it's one of the conundrums that scientists are trying to figure around. But to me it's as if there has to be a third way to evolve, because autistic people I'm kind of nutting this out as I go. As I say, for every Elon Musk, there's 1,000 of me. I don't think autistic people in general particularly like to breed. And don't cite Elon Musk. Autism is not, the research area of autism is not based on Elon Musk. Just like the research on smoking's connection to lung cancer was not based on your grandmother. So I don't think we're particularly keen on breeding. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I just like my privacy and I like my independence. But I like nice kids. And I know very much, I'm very connected with kids and my memory is very strong of being a child, and I'm in children's heads very much. I really, really empathise, and I don't mean empathise like I mean empathise as I remember very clearly what it feels like, and I can connect psychically. Psychically, it does not mean that. Psychically just means kind of emotional, cognitive kind of state. When you have psychic harm, it doesn't mean that you've lost your fucking medium powers. Psychic harm is sort of like psychological harm, but it's got a bit of a slightly different meaning. And I think that's why I but the kids can be awful, you know, like just because I get how you feel doesn't mean I want to be around that. You know, just because it's a normal developmental process to go through, being a total fucking psychopath. Because kids genuinely are they are literally psychopaths. Not sociopaths, but children are psychopaths for a period of time. And that's between the time that they realise that they are separate from their mother and before the time that they develop an understanding that other people are also their own separate beings and have their own interests. And that period in between there is that I am me, and me is the only person who counts. And that's where the terrible twos come in. And fuck that shit. And I'm still intimidated by 7th-formers. Fucking assholes, you know. And autistics, so it's been pretty well established, but it's not in common knowledge that humans have basically stopped evolving. But have we? So this is, I think it's an earthquake. Or maybe it's just my leg. I'll stop pushing my leg against the ladder. Oh my God, I've saved Christchurch. Yeah, I'd like to know a bit more about, statistics are so tricky because it just depends which subgroup and which way you chop the information up, and it's not engineering the data, it's interrogating the data, and you've got to chop it up in little bits and pieces like you're dissecting a creature. You know, you've got to what are you looking for? What's the pathology you're looking for? Is it a pathology or is it an advantage? And so there's this idea that I'm imagining that what is supposed to be a deficit is simply just dropping loose, dead weight. So I think what autistics have done is we've dropped the dead weight of using our emotions to make decisions, because we use, xenophobia is roundly scorned and is seen as one of the greatest evils in the West, which is done with a gigantic blind spot, because the West is hugely xenophobic about autistics and other people, and I'm not any more lefty than I was before, but I'm starting to understand why these are man-made disabilities. ADHD is a disability. I've got ADHD. I agree. It's a disability. It's a fucking disability. It's got its upsides, but overall, like, you are going to have a fucking shit life without treatment. It's not just when it comes into contact with other people, because you just can't get fucking anything done. You can't achieve your goals. Some people agree with me, but I think they're being stupid. Autistics couldn't rule the world. You need people who can, you know, you need people they can do amazing things, and they do, like Richard Branson. But generally speaking, they can't do the underlying stuff that keeps the stuff running, like the admin, the consistency, the timekeeping, all that kind of stuff. It's not their fault. It's not a personality problem. It's not an attitude problem. It's a fucking disability. How the fuck could no working memory be an advantage or an alternative way of being? Autism certainly is an alternative way of being, and it is currently under scrutiny by experts to see if that alternative way of being is a disability or an adaptation. And I can absolutely understand the reason it would be seen as an adaptation, because humans have stopped evolving because we no longer have survival of the fittest. I'm riddled with apparently, I mean, a lot of it's idiopathic, but it seems to be, and remember, genetic is not the same thing as hereditary, but it appears to be, you know, congenital at least. I mean, congenital, I think, it can also be created in the womb. Like, it doesn't have to come from genes as such, but whatever it is, like, I'm physically falling to pieces, and that was before the stress kicked in. Shit's like, my body's going wrong, and it turns out there's a lot of stuff that I'm finding out a lot more from experts, and that a lot of people with, I don't know if it's autism specifically or general kind of neurodivergence, because there's a lot of research about, or a lot of hypotheses about the relationship between autism and ADHD as well, TBH.